So this season I actually watched a lot more shows than I usually do, and now for the low price of a small portion of your time you can listen to the opinions of a random person on the internet who you probably have no connection to. Have fun! Akagami no Shirayuki-Hime, or Snow White with the red hair, is at its most basic level a reimagining of the story of Snow White. Well, except the thing is that the only real similarities the two share are a medieval setting with princes and horses and dwarves, and of course our lovely main character's name Shirayuki, which translates to Snow White. I initially was interested in it because Bones is the production studio and also because Ando Masahiro is the director, but now I really think that this is the best show this season. There's nothing really revolutionary about Akagami, but at the very least it's a good, believable love story. And it's a selling point for this show, and the main thing that makes this such a good romance, that Prince Zen and Shirayuki both have duties and restrictions on themselves that they need to come to terms with in order to be together. Shirayuki is, and there's no contest to this, the best girl of the season. And there's also a pretty colorful cast of characters that surround our couple who aren't boring and add a lot of things to love to this show with their personalities. And I haven't even mentioned the presentation of it yet. Jeez, this show is beautiful. The scenery is lovingly drawn, and the clothing in particular is just so intricate and interesting to look at. Even if you in general don't really like shoujo, this anime is one that you should check out in the genre. Oh boy, this show. I have quite a bit to say about it, and I'm going to be making a video on what I thought about it, but for now, here's a condensed version. Charlotte essentially is another show with huge potential and great production value that was ruined by bad writing. There's a ton of small things that just piled up and turned a show that started off pretty good into a ridiculously paced mess full of useless characters and plot contrivances. And of course, the final episode. I just don't understand how Jun Maeda came to the conclusion that what he wrote into the finale was a good idea. With all that said, I did have fun watching it, and the animation and art style is solid. It's a PA Works show after all. A video on my thoughts on the show is already in the works, like I said, and boy do I have a lot to say about it, pretty much all of which is negative. Gakkou Gurashi, or School Live, manages to be one of the best, episode 1 spoilers by the way, moe slice-of-life zombie apocalypse mashups. I'm a big believer of appropriate tone in any narrative, but Gakkou Gurashi kind of makes me question that. On one hand, we have, frankly, adorable scenes of cute girls doing cute things, but then on the other, we have Shovel Knight Kills Zombies Anime Edition. I don't really have a concrete reason why I like this show, but it's definitely entertaining, and of course you can screw with your less than informed friends by recommending it to them and telling them not to read any synopses on it. Thought this anime was about cute girls living at high school? Nope, it's about cute girls surviving a zombie apocalypse, living with dementia, and losing almost everyone they cared about. And the show gets pretty damn dark. Heck, it's pretty dark from the beginning. Also, to my pleasant surprise, some of the scenes really stuck out to me as classy, like when they have the jazz ballad playing and the tone is all melancholic, and also when Yuki's dementia is revealed to Miki and the music of the CD player she dropped is slowly cutting out. This is based on a relatively new manga, and as is tradition with these sorts of things, there are quite a few unanswered questions, and the ending sets up for a sequel. And while I'm not really a fan of the current read the source material model, I find it more acceptable when there is a sense of progression during the run of the show, and Gakkou Gurashi definitely has that. It's a good show, and it pleasantly surprised me. This was the show I was most looking forward to. I was expecting a dark, gritty story about two guys living in a shady city and making a living doing shady things, mixed with drugs, sex, and gangs. And, to an extent, I did receive that. But then there's also the darker-than-black ripoff of having a group of ostracized superhumans. Gangsta also has animation quality issues that I found really annoying. Basically, it feels like people don't have fully defined facial structure, which is ironic for a show that actually has really nice character designs for the most part. This is just a theory, but the animation issues could have had something to do with Manglobe declaring bankruptcy shortly after the conclusion of the show. And the ending feels like a slap to the face to anybody who stuck it out and watched the entire show. Like I was saying before, I think progression in a show is important. Gangsta has a little bit of that, but then it ends right when the story is getting good. Its saving grace are its two main characters, Warwick and Nicholas, who really bind the story together and are multifaceted and interesting. But all in all, if I could tell my past self about Gangsta, I'd say to just read the manga and not bother with the anime.
こちらアーチャー目標アルファを捉えた。ランサーポイント単語へ移動。クリアアーチャー。
Oh, I didn't realize I was watching Gate Stay Night. I don't really have much to say about Gate. I didn't hate it, but I didn't really like it either. I understand why a lot of people like this. I feel like its main gimmick is how it tries to combine a military story with fantasy and otaku pandering, but that just felt out of place to me. When the Princess of the Empire Beyond the Gate is shown first meeting with Japanese officials in an attempt to create a peace agreement, and then she's also shown comedically becoming engrossed in yaoi manga, I feel like that takes me out of the experience I wanted to have with this show. Basically, Gate tries to simultaneously be an epic military adventure and also a slice-of-life-esque comedy, and that personally just didn't really work for me. This was okay in Gakkou Gurashi because the tone disparity was the whole point of the show, but there's nothing in Gate that really stuck out to me, like, oh, I'm gonna remember this scene for a long time. I honestly just would have preferred it if Gate had stuck to the serious side. I have not played the God Eater games, so I might not be the best person to judge this based on faithful or enjoyable adaptation, but I can judge it on it alone. Keep in mind that it's also not finished airing, as Ufotable continues to show us how understaffed it is, with the final 4 episodes being delayed ambiguously until sometime this winter. So, from what I've seen so far, here's my opinion on it. First off, the art is gorgeous. I'm mainly talking about the characters here. I really like the cel-shaded, heavily CGI art style, and it gives the show a lot of personality and uniqueness. Of course, I understand it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I personally was a fan of it, and although there's a bunch of improvements to be made to it, I hope that more shows with this type of style come out and use it better. Next, and I might be a little biased, hell, of course I'm biased, but Goshina's score really makes this anime much better than it would be without it. Which leads me to my last point, which is that the show has what I would describe as a muted tone. It's much more melancholic than what you'd expect out of a show about killing indestructible monsters. The battles don't really feel as exciting as they should, probably because it feels like the characters are standing still most of the time, and the hype feeling mainly comes from the soundtrack and the vocalized songs that play during the tail end of most of the episodes. In the end, I'd honestly just recommend it for its great soundtrack and great art style. You know, I really wanted to like Overlord. I was really excited by the unique aspects of the premise, and it seemed like there was a meaningful end goal that allowed the show to be flexible and interesting while still retaining some feeling of progress over its runtime. Overlord actually has a very good main character who is intelligent, adorably embarrassed at times, and seems to have a good idea of how to go about surviving in the new world he finds himself in. Unfortunately, the premise is all the show has going for it, and over time I just got more bored and bored as the weeks went by. And although I'm assuming that the light novels are better, the anime adaptation manages to make everything Ainz does feel kind of meaningless. Seriously, the majority of the show is Ainz being crazily overpowered and just beating every villain he comes across under the goal of finding information because he's very cautious, while also being an edgelord because he says he doesn't care about the humans he kills. But that's actually a plot point because he turned into a true undead and he's not actually human anymore. And then sort of the payment for Ainz being a really good character is that it's impossible to connect or like any of the other characters because they're all essentially just NPCs. And not only that, Ainz actually just has an item that he can use to revive them whenever he wants. Nothing that happens has any real weight to it, because we know that Ainz is just going to win, because he's the most powerful being in the world as far as we know. But to its credit, Overlord does do a good job of explaining game mechanics, and the battles in themselves aren't bad at all. It's just that when I look at the show from a wider viewpoint, I feel like nothing really happened. I really liked Rokka no Yuusha. It was the surprise gem of the season for me. But before I get to the good stuff, let's talk about its flaws. Most apparent is the fact that the essential premise of the show is almost completely forgotten over the course of the show. The 6 Braves off to defeat the Demon King, except that's not what happens. What we're instead treated to is very well done in itself, but in the story as a whole, it's nothing but an annoying detour that our characters have to deal with. The meat of the story consists of our 6 or 7 heroes becoming trapped within a dense forest, with one of their number being an agent of the evil Demon King. From there, the show becomes a Clue-esque whodunit mystery, where our main character has to find out the real culprit while being suspected himself. And the mystery is very engaging, and for the most part well thought out and creative, save for a few contrivances. I'll admit it, I had a lot of fun watching this. The visuals are nice, the Mayan, or maybe it's Aztec-inspired setting and monsters are also really nice, especially for a studio that's essentially brand new. And although I'm pretty sure a lot of people found our main character Adlet Meyer annoying, I found his shonen-esque personality quite endearing, even if he's a little bit cliché. So that's it for this video, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been working on my Shinsekai Yori script for like 2 months now, so I'd like to think it's almost done, but I still have yet to really buckle down and finish it completely. The Charlotte rant should be out within the next week because I don't want to wait too long to release it since the season's already over. Anyways, thanks for watching and have a great day, guys.